Okay, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for the day, Ted Wierzbanowski. I first met Ted when I was a young engineer at NASA driving. Ted was the
old guy.
No, you were young then. You were an old guy compared to me. I guess that's not true. Ted's retired Air Force colonel and experimental test pilot who now serves as the director for UAS Aerospace Integration at Aerospace. He's been deeply involved in advanced aircraft development since the early 1980s, when he was the first Air Force test pilot project manager for the X-29 program. And I don't know if you guys remember the X-29, but that's the one where the wings are on backwards. And Ted will have to tell you why. During his time, he also was the fighter branch chief at the Air Force Flight Test Center, helped create and manage a new organization at Edwards responsible for one-of-a-kind research aircraft programs. And there's a long list of them. Ted graduated from the U.S. Air Force Academy in 1968. Also has a Master of Science degree in Systems Management from USC. He's a graduate of both the United States Air Force Test Pilot School and the Defense Systems Management College. He's a nationally recognized expert in the design, development, and test of advanced technology aircraft and support systems, including unmanned aircraft systems. Currently, he's responsible for all of AeroVironment's interaction with the Federal Aviation Administration and other government agencies on UAS issues. At this time, I'd like to welcome our speaker, Ted Wierzbanowski.
And so what I'd like to do today is talk a little bit about the transformation of the aerospace industry using the same kind of examples, both in this country, other countries, and especially in the Antelope Valley. Unmanned aircraft are not just military systems. There are significant applications for unmanned aircraft in the non-military world. Police forces, firefighting, whatever. That's what I'm talking about. And show you examples of big airplanes that they couldn't bring here. I've got some models of bigger airplanes, and I'm really here not as a AeroVironment employee. I'm here as a member of an organization called Keynote. It is the UAV National Industry. It's made up of the major manufacturers of unmanned aircraft, many of which are here in the Antelope Valley. Boeing, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed, General Atomics, AAI, AeroVironment, and a couple of others are members of this organization that we formed about a decade ago to start to address all the issues associated with flying unmanned aircraft in the national airspace system and doing it safely. General Atomics Predator. It's a big airplane, but as I think you know, this is used up and down the border, both the northern and southern border, looking for folks coming across the border illegally, and it's being very effective in that particular mission. A version of this is also used by NASA Drive, where they're off doing fire monitoring with the I forget what they call it, the Akira, but it's really a Predator variant. So that's a bigger one. As we move down in scale, there's another airplane over here. This is a Boeing in-situ scanning one. It was originally designed for fishing. They would launch this off a fishing boat and they'd go hunt for tuna. And in fact, that particular application is coming back again. And but now it's used in the military world. Both the Marines and others actually hire Boeing to go fly this thing to bring them information back in the war zone in Afghanistan and other places. Very, very nice airplane. It weighs about 40 pounds or so. It's not very big, but it's still very, very, very big. So now we're going to talk about smaller stuff. Back in 1986, the folks at AeroVironment thought that there would be a requirement for a soldier to be able to look over the next hill and not have to rely on an F-4 or some other reconnaissance aircraft to see what's across the hill. Okay, so they came up and developed a system called Pointers, about a 6-foot wingspan. And in the time from 1986 till 9/11, AeroVironment sold about 300 airplanes. As those pointers were used in the war, people started to understand how valuable they were and how many lives they were saving. So look, the military asked us to build a small version. So this is Raven. This is full scale model. This weighs 4 pounds. It flies for about an hour and a half. It's hand launched. You might see a version of it up there. They just throw the airplane in the sky. It's electric powered. It flies normally about 400 feet above the ground, so you can get good resolution with the camera. This particular model has fixed cameras. There's a new model out that actually has a gimbal. It's used by the soldiers. They're out in the field, somebody's shooting at them. They put this together. In fact, it comes in a pack, just like this. Just pull it out of here. They carry this out in the field with them, and it fits in here. They put it together, and they throw it up. They can see who's doing what, and then they can go do whatever they need to do. It's flown, this class of airplanes also flown for convoy protection in Afghanistan. And you know how many people we've had hurt or killed from IEDs. Save a lot of lives. To give you an idea of how many of these are out there saving American lives, and our NATO partners and other partners that we have around the world. We have just shipped a 20,000 version of this. So there's 20,000 of these out there. So this is Raven. When we developed this, we were asked by the folks that they wanted to have something a little bit smaller. And so over the period of years, we developed this system. This is called the Boss. This is full scale. Weighs a pound or less, actually. It also is hand launched. It's got infrared cameras on it, just like Raven has. It's got infrared cameras on it. It's got electro-optical cameras. The version of it is waterproof. And it's the same thing. You hand launch it. It flies where you need it to fly, and it comes back and lands. You pull it back together again and fly it again. When these things land, you may have seen the picture of the landing here. It just goes into a deep stall and just breaks apart. And it's designed to break apart, put it back together again, put it in the battery, and go for it. Okay. So this is lost. How are these things flown? This is the control station right here. You can come up and look at it afterwards. But this is actually, if you look at the interface here, it all fits, by the way, this all fits in one bag. That's all they need out in the field. So if you think of police departments, they want to have something like this to go fly. Look for guys on the other side of the building that might have a gun or something. This is it. It looks like a PlayStation. It's because the people that fly these things are the 18, 20-year-olds have been brought up with this technology. Very simple to fly. It's not like flying a model aircraft. I was talking to somebody that flies remotely where they actually have to hand fly the airplane. All you really do is pre-program GPS waypoints, and it goes flies the GPS waypoints. Or you can hand fly it, tell it turn to the right, so you just do it, turn to the right, or turn to the left, climb a little bit. They said can't do a roll, can't do a loop, can't do anything. And then when you bring it back, or it comes back by itself, you have these two buttons because of deep stall in front of you or over where you, if you're out in the war zone, you don't program it to land where you are, you program it to land a little ways away, so the bad guys can look at it and get back. So this is how it's controlled. So let's talk about a couple of other things as technology is matured now. Things are getting small. Be careful with this about breaking it. It's very expensive. You may have seen this on the cover of time. This is the nano terminal. This is a real unmanned aircraft. It flaps its wings, it flies just like a Hoffman. You know, it hovers, it can turn, it can do all this other kind of stuff. So it won some big award from the Time magazine, one of the innovations of the year. We keep it under glass because it's pretty expensive. But the guys that do this, they just have a ball, right? There's one guy that's been doing this for years, and they look on the side of this. So let's talk about other applications other than that. You've seen it over there on the screen. You see it over on the screen. What's happening is that the young men and women that are overseas that are flying these things, they come back and they work with police departments, they work with fire departments, first responders, all that stuff, and they go, why can't I have these here? Why can't I use these? These things save my life over the war zone. I can use them to help me in doing my stuff here in the States and worldwide. Agriculture, you see some of that up there where you can go and do remote sensing of fields. In fact, we did a program many years ago with a solar power airplane in Hawaii where we used the solar power airplane flying at high altitude to help optimize the harvesting of coffee beans on Hawaii. Because you could tell the difference in the color of the coffee beans. And if coffee beans were green and brown, they weren't ready to be picked. If they were red and yellow, you get 10 times the money for it. And what they were doing at that time is just haphazardly going out in the field and picking the coffee. So there's all these applications. What I want to talk about in some kind of detail, but give you an idea of what's happening in the real world here. This is Cube. None of these are real airplanes have been bigger because of various restrictions, but this is Cube. This is specifically being developed for law enforcement and first responders and whatever. Very simple quad rotor, mostly because what we have found in talking with law enforcement folks and other folks around the country, that although there are many missions for using like a Raven system, let's say you have an Alzheimer's patient wandering off, you have a lost child in the woods, these things are really good with their IR cameras, you can pick people up like that. But if you want to really hover over a place and take pictures of a crime zone or take pictures of an accident, right now when you have an accident, they have to go measure everything. Well, they can use this and accurately give a good, accurate view of what really happened. So this thing flies for 30 minutes or so, and it's a very simple interface. It's we don't even have to close up. This is it. It's all point click. And you take this, you have that in the back of your patrol car or a fire department. There's stuff being done over in Europe right now where they use systems like that to help firefighters see hot spots on roofs. I don't know much about firefighting, but you get a guy up on the roof and there's a hot spot and he falls through, he's pretty hurt. They can use the IR cameras to actually look at the roof. Systems like that are being used in Australia to inspect electric towers. There's a real value to these things for inspecting pipelines and power lines and all of that kind of stuff. But you got to make it simple, and that's what we've been trying to do. The industry, has been trying to do is to make the interface simple so that you don't even have to be a pilot to fly these things. And in most of the cases, they are pilots that fly these things. There's, as I mentioned earlier, the youngsters, the 18-year-olds, the 20-year-olds, the 25-year-olds. So, the thing that's interesting with respect to transformation is, and here in the Antelope Valley, we do a lot of testing here. Basically raised here, the kids were raised here. Palmdale, I was Ted for the X-30 program. And so, as these systems be developed, both the large ones and the small ones, there's a big demand for experienced test personnel and test areas because, you have the restricted area around Edwards, you've got all this stuff here in the Antelope Valley, good weather. So you still have to have test areas to go test these things. And a lot of times you don't want to test them where there's a lot of people around because you don't know what they're going to do. So we're going to need to have people that get involved in these unmanned aircraft. We're going to have test areas to do that. And I was going to bring up a slide here. There's an activity going on in the FAA. There's a lot of activities going on in the FAA. Some activity, but a lot of activities in the FAA about integrating UASs into the NAS. One of the things that the NAS is the National Air Space System. One of the things that's going on, they were directed by Congress to establish 6 testing areas in the country so that UASs or unmanned aircraft can be tested safely. That direction is being implemented by the FAA. They're about sometime in the near future, they will be issuing a request for information to the whole country, different parts of the country, to give the FAA how they would actually set up these test areas. There are a couple of entities here in Southern California that are working on that. One of them, that's the huge one. Bill Groh from Ventura County is here. Eileen Shipley's here from Indiacur, and they're here in the audience. And they're actually getting ready to put in if I can get this this sort of a proposal to have this test area established here in the Antelope Valley, and hopefully some of you will support them because we really don't want a test area just in one specific location because we, the industry, have locations all over Southern California. We have locations down in San Diego, we Beach Whistle system places up here. I mean, we flight test a lot of these things out there. And so the other companies in the night. So, if I can find the chart. This is what people are looking at of establishing Southern California wide. And Eileen, if you'll stand up so they know who you are, so that after the meeting they might chat with you. And Bill, you would stand up as well. You know, they're establishing a test area, as you can see here in the slide, to enable industry to safely but cost-effectively test these unmanned systems as they're being developed. And this is just the beginning. You think about the Wright brothers in the first flight, that's where we are right now. People are coming up with all kinds of applications for these unmanned aircraft, when they understand how they can be used. I know when I was in Geneva and trying to explain to delegates, significant amount of interest from the African nations, other nations about how they can use these for anti-poaching. Actually, there's some ravens over, I think Hillary Clinton, actually, there's a picture of her holding a raven over in the African country. They're being used for anti-poaching, being used for counterterrorism, whatever. So, if you have some influence on this or want to participate in this development and establishment of a test area here in Southern California for unmanned aircraft, talk to Eileen and Bill after the show. So really, I don't know what else much more to say about unmanned aircraft. I don't want to take too much more of your time. I'll stay around for a little bit, I'll be happy to answer questions, talk a little bit more in detail about some of this stuff. But really, unmanned aircraft are here to stay. I was just reading something the other day that it looks like it'll be one of the top 15 technology things in 2013, and there are just multitude of people starting to get involved in this class of aircraft, from the small guys all the way up to the big guys. So I'll end with that, and thank you very much for your attention. I tried to be brief, but still a little, show a little interest, show a little hardware, and get people excited about these industries. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.